Okay, once again, good day, viewers, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. So, it's been a while that we have not been posting videos regarding the show, but we are back and back with a very interesting topic. I mean, it is a topic that is really being talked about, and we deem it necessary as young people, as young Africans, to talk about it. Because if we do not talk about things at our tender age as young Africans, then how are we going to find solutions for the problems that we are always complaining of? So I have my guest here, my panelists, as usual. You have Musa Tamba. He is the social secretary of the Young Champion Debaters Association. And here you have Serif Jallo. He is the president of the YCDA, that is the Young Champions Debaters Association. Then you have my honorable boss here, Biran Sala. He is a political science student. I'm third year student at the University of the Gambia. So nice to have you guys here. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, as we said, it is a very important topic that we are going to talk about. It is the trending thing happening in the sub-region in West Africa, which is coup d'etats. It is very important to talk about it. But first, I would love to hear from you. What is your take on coup d'etats? Biran, to start with you.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here to share moments with great thinkers, individuals that I believe will lecture me very well. So African politics, as a continent, since the olden days of independence, one of the oldest phenomenon that has been affecting our political arena is the issue of military intervention. Some call it coup d'etat in French terminology. So for me, to make things clear before the conversation goes further, I've always been siding with the individuals that feel that military men are not trained to take the barrel of the gun and overthrow legitimate governments. They're trained to protect the countries from external aggressions. So, visiting history from the first time military intervention happened in Africa was in 1963 when General Nyasimbe Yedema of Togo had to assassinate Sylvanus Olympio, took over. So many individuals came to power through military coups. Some we celebrate, some, but we vilified others. The likes of Sankara, J.J. Rawlins, and then others are praised for being outstanding leaders, even though they came to power through the barrel of the gun. But you have to weigh whether the good supersedes, or whether the majority are good, or whether the minority are bad. And then I hold the view that majority of the individuals that came to power through the barrel of the gun have not delivered to the expectations of their people.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful deliberation there, Biran. But I think we would have some. I think some of us might disagree with what you have said, some of the things that you have said. But down to Serif, what is your take on coup d'etats or military intervention in our politics in the sub-region recently?
Well, thank you very much. Once again, I am honored to be back again for our usual show. Let's talk about it, and sorry, we shall talk about it. Well, today I am vividly in support of my boss. That is, the military are expected to protect the territorial integrity of the nation and not seeking for power. As he rightly put it, the impacts or the negative effects that they will bring to the country or to the society is more than the positivities that they will bring. Remember, this is a position, and in life people tend to compete for two things. That is power and money. So when they happens to get the power, they don't want to relinquish the power to the civilians to do what is expected of them. But instead, they try to seize those positions. At the end, they don't even have the technical know-how to run the day-to-day running of affairs of that particular nation. However, I am not saying all military intervention coups or those that usually held coup d'etats are not educated or does not have the technical know-how, but most of them does not know the technical know-how. As a result, they do not contribute to national development, but instead they contribute to national backwardness. As a result, I'm against.
Interesting. Well, it seems someone is against all what you have said. Musa,
Yeah.
what is your take on military intervention in our politics recently?
Okay, thank you so much, Adam Asane, and then my fellow speakers. But then before saying much, I would obviously have to greet by saying Assalamu alaikum to you all wonderful viewers. Once again, we are back. That is, let's talk about it so with Adam Asane. And this time around, we are to discuss on a very important topic, and a recent one for that matter. That is military intervention in politics, or coup d'etat, some people might call it. But before saying much, we should be able to know what do we mean when we say military intervention in politics, that is coup d'etats. Okay, so essentially if you talk about coup d'etats, it has to do with the illegal overthronement of a legitimate government by the men in uniform or by the army. Mostly people will say that by the men in uniform for the fact that most of the coup d'etats that happens are obviously committed by the military or the men in uniform. So aside from that, my take is I am really in support of the military, that is, them taking over the democratically elected governments. I mean, we all know, as Lord Actions would usually say, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if we have presidents whom you know that they are in power, but they are not doing what is expected of them, then obviously there should be people whom you know that they should show them what is expected of them. I mean, they said most of the militaries do not understand how a government should be run, or how a government should operate, I can say. But if we are to take a good look of, I mean, people like Muammar Gaddafi, he came to power through the barrel of the gun, and then he succeeded. And if we are to take a good look of his achievements, he did great. I mean, Gaddafi was able to come up with a very good initiative that is making sure that Africans use the same currency. And when this happens, then obviously Africa would at least realize her potential. I mean, if we are to talk about people like Jammeh, at some point, some people might say the bad, side of him overweighed the good side of him. But Jammeh also did great. So that is my take, though. And I have a lot of reasons as to why I am in support of the military.
Interesting. Biran, yes. You have said something concerning the issue of military intervention in politics.
Yes.
Put more light on this, like emphasize more on what you have said.
So the debate should not be as to whether they intervene. The debate should be what are the factors that led to military intervention. Mm-hmm. We have a constitution in every country. There are laws that govern. There are laws that dictate how leaders ought to operate and how the citizens ought to conduct themselves. So I believe that is why also we have elections. Because if the citizens are not okay with the operations of a particular legitimate government, that is why every 5 years we are given an opportunity to go back to the polls and decide whether we want continuity or whether we are going to change governments. So the military, to me, if we are to all subscribe to military intervention, so we just opening ways for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to take the barrel of the gun, have the support of few individuals in the army, head to our states out, head to the most important government buildings, take them over. And then that is not going to help us. I mean, Musa has elaborated on some of the individuals that he think came to power through the barrel of the gun and then they delivered. But if you go to Libya, of course, you will have some individuals that will also narrate to you the negative sides of Muammar Gaddafi. I understand every leader has a good and a bad side. But I'm just putting to him that, of course, he has a lot of bad sides too. A lot of them will tell you he was not an individual who believes in democracy. He has massacred, killed a lot of them. For Jammeh's own, I think the TRRC clearly shows the narrations that during the TRRC clearly shows that a lot of individuals lost their lives because of unconstitutional without following the due process of the law.
Yes, Biran, to cut you short, you have said something very important, that in every country we have a constitution that states, the do's and the don'ts of a particular country.
Exactly.
And most especially the government.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the push factor for military intervention in politics?
It could be many. One of the reasons could be some men in uniform have the passion for leadership. Mm. And then they feel that, of course, removing the military uniform and putting on the hat of a politician to contest an election will be extremely difficult for them to get an opportunity to serve as leaders. Mm. So they feel that instead of going the right way, Let us use the
But is that your
one
okay?
out of many.
Okay.
Poor governance also could be another factor. You have some elected leaders that do not deliver to the expectations of their people. But even if they don't deliver, that do not give the right to the military in uniform, because we do not say that in our constitution the military men should intervene. We say if leaders are not delivering, let's go to elections.
Interesting. Musa, what is your take on what he said?
Yeah, I believe at some point he was trying to deviate to the saying that because of their personal ambitions they have. But the fact is, one of the main reasons why military intervene in projects is overstay in power. Most of our leaders do overstay in power. They stay long in power. And mismanagement of public fund as well. Okay, because we expect the citizens to pay tax. And this tax is expected to be properly managed and used by the government so as to meet the needs and aspirations of the citizens. So if it is not properly used by the government, then obviously, if the citizens are unable to remove the government from power, because remember, elections in most of the countries is in every 5 years. It is only in few countries like Senegal that have maybe 2 terms. So if there is no term limit, then that president will keep on winning elections and keep on mismanaging public funds.
Then
so obviously when that happens...
What do you mean by keep on winning elections? What happens?
Keep on winning elections. When you are in power, you have access to most of the resources in the country.
So you mean they reach elections to overstay
Exactly.
power?
Region of elections is also among the reasons. But the main reason here for coup d'etats is overstay in power. But you cannot just say that it is because of their personal ambition. That could be a reason, but that reason is not as very significant as the overstaying in power.
Interesting. Sirif, what is your take? What do you have to counter on what he said?
Well, Musa needs to understand one thing. That is, overstay in power. When the politician or the leaders try to overstay in power, it is the sole responsibilities of the citizens to go back to the polls. It's just 5 years for a term. They have the sole responsibility to go to the polls and then decide. But then the military has a responsibility to play. And that responsibility is to maintain peace and stability in that country. But once, in fact, when the military try to intervene through the barrels of the gun, what happens is that country is a country that is a threat to peace and stability. And a country that is a threat to peace and stability is not expected to develop as expected. Because what happens is, other countries will try to intervene. Some will try to be in support, some will try to be against. And when this happens, it is cutting all your bilateral relationships with other countries in terms of economical development and other necessary things as per the development of the nation. But if these channels are cut, what happens? The citizens of the country tends to suffer. So instead of coming through the barrels of the gun, allow the citizens to decide. Allow them to go back to the polls. Let them do what is expected of them. Musa is trying to say that politicians try to reach elections. But he needs to understand one thing. You cannot be disturbing an individual every time